Okay, so I have a repository. It takes some time to propagate, maybe like a minute, 2 minutes. Again, the person who's like in the whole wing or that does Subversion repos, like somebody's using Subversion, he's like asleep, and no one's like talked to him in 2 weeks. Then we just find a place on our hard drive where we want to put that project. So I have my Unreal projects on my. This is just as one hard drive, and I would make a new folder. So new folder, and we're going to call it Horror Escape. And then I usually do underscore WC for working copy. This is how I can take a glance and say these are all active projects. Once I'm no longer working on something, I take away the WC. That's something I learned how to do. And you have an empty folder, right? You have to do this in an empty folder first. It'll give you warnings and have problems. So what it's going to do is it's going to install. That's the email saying that it's ready to go. So we're going to have this hidden file called .svn, and that's the database of everything that you can't actually get into. That's like it's like encrypted. I'm going to go to the website for Tortoise SVN. I spelled that very badly, but it still worked. Great. So I don't know anyone here who has a 32-bit computer anymore. So go ahead and install on your 64-bit operating system. And then on Slack, I'll go ahead and put where that is. So you're going to install that. Make sure you have all your software closed. And it's what's called a shell script. When I right-click now, I have Tortoise installed in my right-click menu. It's like context sensitive, right? I hit Shift-click to get all the things in Windows 11. Right-click, it would still be there, right? And this empty folder, and the first thing I need to do is connect it to the cloud, right? So I need to check it out. This is only the first time. I already have the URL on my clipboard. Actually, I don't because I just put on my clipboard Tortoise SVN. So I'll need to go back to DreamHost, grab Horrorscape, and I'll provide these over Slack. We're going to make private Slack channels for each group for communication with me and everything. So this just means it's not ready yet. It does not support the thing. It's not ready yet. So we'll take it a second. We'll give it a second. But normally we just say check out, and I don't have to work. No. So I have, for instance, my project that I've been working on this computer. I I have in my own real project. So my project for this semester is this one called using the prototyping in class work WC working copy. So you see it has that .svn there. That just means it's connected to SVN. And then every time I sit down on this computer, I update and it pulls and I have revision 7, right? And then when I get up, I push. So that's what you get used to is like when you get done with like a for a day or if you're taking a lunch break, if you're working with other people, remember to push before you go. Like, oh, I'm at the club, I can't upload it. Like, I need to work on it. So you have to get used to this. I'm sitting down. Oh, how long have you been working? I'm working for 3 hours. Did you pull the files? No. Like, well, I already did all that. Always pull when you sit down. Always push when you're getting ready to go. All right. And then you have the most recent thing. So I am now at revision 7. And then I have all these different features where I can update and commit once I have my connected to my cloud repository. Cool. So check my email real quick to see if no. All right. That's fine. Let's go back to my slides real quick. So we've made it. Everyone will have unique usernames so I can see who installed those. So let's take a look at that real quick. So go back to my repository. I'm going to look at the first thing on the list, which is our third thing now, log. And this is everything that happened in the project. All 7 revisions. When I click on it, I see the message I gave myself, and I see all the files that were altered. Right, so I had my initial commit. I added OSC for week 5. I did some testing. I did some stuff for week 7, and I can see every file that I edited. And I'm the author for all of them. But if it was somebody else, it would say Audie did this, Bridget did this, and then we know who did what and alter what files, which is super cool. Great. Um, cool. So that we just went through this. Download Tortoise SVN, and this is all stuff. Check it out. Put in the URL, and then you get to push and pull. Right. You want to push content to the database and pull content from the database. Right. So pull or update, push or commit. Those are the terminology you get used to doing. Right. And then you need to usually when you push the content, make sure you write a message saying, "Hey, today's the day I added that feature," and that way you don't have to talk to yourself all the time or to each other. The same thing on Mac. So if I go to my Mac at home, it's called Snail SVN. Right? It's also free to use. Snail SVN has one limitation that you can only have one active repository. So you can only work on one project through Subversion for free before you pay for the paid version. So right now, I have, and it looks exactly the same. This is my virtual production class from last semester. Um, we uh, we have a folder here. It's called Working Copy, and then everything here is Mac compatible as well. And then I'm able to right click, and then you see I have SVN update and commit. The same looking things, just two different companies make it, and it's the same process. Right. So Mac also has it, and so you can be working on Mac. I'm still trying to make the classes cross compatible as possible, so people can be on Macs until they get to the final media server computer. All right, so all the steps are here. Now with the most recent operating system updates, you have to get permissions to be able to see folder paths and that kind of stuff. So make sure you're giving good permissions, but everything looks exactly the same. Push, pull, all that kind of stuff. Right? What's super cool is that you can also use Unreal Engine as a version control client. It's slow. I try not to make big updates or big commits inside of Unreal Engine, but it's really good if you're working actively and somebody needs something you're working on, saying, "Oh, put that in the cloud." You can right click on individual files and upload them one at a time, and that way you can work on the fly. I like to have Slack for this, GChat, some ICQ, whatever the hell you want to use. It's good to have some sort of communication system if you're not in the same room with each other, and being able to, I'd say, "Oh, can you fling me those files back and forth?" So inside of the interface of Unreal, which I can open up, will have its own version control system. Again, it's constantly pinging the internet to look for updates. So I find it slows down the interface slightly. On a big project, it's essential you do this, but on these projects where you're going to be working probably asynchronously or huddling around a single computer, it's less important. But I would be remiss if I didn't tell you when you go to the real world, you need to make sure you're linking your editor to version control. And just like the style guide we talked about, like week 2 or 3, if you join a project they don't have a style guide, run the fuck away because they don't know what they're doing. Same thing if they don't know how to use version control. If they're like, oh, we just put it in Dropbox or it's in a Google Drive. That's just a nightmare. You don't even be involved with it. So revision control, you can say connect to source control. We're going to be choosing Subversion. Basically, we have Git, Plastic, and Perforce, all the things we were talking about before. And then you put in the URL, put in your name. I don't know what a labels directory even is. Put in your password, and then you can accept changes. And then there'll be little checkboxes on all your files. And it'll say green checkbox, no one's working on it. X, and it'll say Adi's working on this file. You can't access this file if you want to use it. Talk to Adi, and he can upload it, and then you can make the changes. Super great, right? Really quick to know what's happening. Subversion in general is a slower version of uploading and downloading, which is why I try to do it inside the editor. Single files are great, but if I made a bunch of changes, I'm going to close the editor and then I'm going to go use Tortoise or Snail and then go back to the Explorer and then do a commit this way. And then it's going to go looking through your hard drive, finding all the changes, and then say, and you can, and sometimes it's important to say, I need to make sure I check all these options off, all the things that may changes. Sometimes you don't want to put changes that you're not ready to share. So you just maybe go through every single file and say, no, I don't want to share that one. I do want to share that one. And especially on big client projects, you might want to do that. Be very, very file centric. Like only on specific files will you do this stuff. Cool. Um, that's good. So that's version control. Let's see if there's any more slides. all that stuff. So here's more screenshots of what it looks like inside the interface. You can check out modified files, submit modified files. You'll find your own groove with it. I'd say just try to use it, and then when you go on mistakes, let me know. But just get used to it. All right. So all the documentation's here. There's presentations in the syllabus. So just we'll make, if you guys can go ahead and make private channels on Slack for yourselves, include me, and then when you ping me, I'll make you your repository if you want to use it. You don't have to. I just highly recommend it. Again, that's why we're in schools, to make mistakes when I can help you out, not later on when we're deleting a $3 million project. All right. So before we break too much, let's talk about the scent machine. The scent machine documentation. It's right here. It's got 6 chambers in it. Winslow's going to go over it more. I'm just going to show you functionally how to use it. So you'll have this link in the Slack for this week as well. This is the documentation. Not really that much of a documentation. Essentially, you have some commands. It's called the company's called O Widgets, and it's called a scent machine or whatever. And essentially, you're sending. You have 6 channels. You're telling channel on, channel off. That's it. It works in Unreal. It works in Arduino. It works in Max. It's very simple. This is the simplest code we've done all semester long. It's more fun about thinking about how you can make custom things and the perfumery of the whole thing, which Winslow will go over. So the so if I was going to the first thing I have to note is you have to have a USB driver for it. So that's called Silicon Labs. You here. Wait, this is for Windows. Let me get the website up. So Silicon Labs USB driver. It works for Windows and Mac. Just go to Downloads. There you go. Windows Mac driver. And I'll also put this in Slack for you. And then once you have it installed, you can go over to, let's say, Arduino. Come back over here to these. Where did I go? I'm all over the place. Try Silicon Labs. Great. So this is our command: channel 1 off and on. Notice that there is a colon and a space. A colon after channel 1 and a space between stat and on. Cool. So if I go back to Arduino, find it. Let's see. It's not finding it. I just installed the drivers. I hope I don't have to restart my computer. That'd be really annoying. This is unknown. Cool. That's annoying. Okay, so it takes 115200 baud. Cool. And then I can go to channel 1 stat on. I'm having problems with the cable. But did you guys hear that turning on? Right? That was channel on. Let me try that again. I think I have to restart my computer. Believe me that you have to also say off to make it turn off normally. So as long as it's on, you're sending it that thing. So um, if you can do it from Arduino, that seems kind of manual to do here. You can maybe make a script that types it in serial monitor. But if you close this and you bring up Max, it's very simple to send text to Arduino over Max. So we know we want a serial object. Great. When I do serial object, I make three messages: open, close, right? Because I'm gonna have to open and close it based off of what if I have my serial monitor on an Arduino, and then I make another one for print. Make a new object to print to the console right here on the side. If I hold down Shift, I can connect multiple objects at once. And now let's say print. It's on port F 115200. And then the thing that we were doing before with the nano, say at DTR at 1. I'm just doing that by default now. So say open, and now we need to send the channel 1 on. So that's another message. Channel 1 stat on. We need to convert this ASCII to integers, which is A to I, ASCII to integer, and then we need to give it a line return, right? You guys know what that is? In integers, that's 10, right? 10 and 13, character return is 13, line return is 10. So say there's an object called for triggering bangs with and ordering objects. We say trigger or T, and it reads it backwards from the end to the front. So we want to give it a 10, and we send it the integer. All this is doing, when I click stat channel on, converts all these ASCII to integers. Oh, I gotta do it this way, both of them. And then let's do the print. It's not doing it. Okay. If I put this in the serial, it should work though. Now I'm getting the 10. Serial and list. It's not a list, it's integers. When in doubt, um, like any good cooking show, make sure I open it. Sorry. Open. All right. So I already sent this stuff to myself on my own personal. I have communications with myself all the time. New. Oops. New from before. All right. So let's put you on the right channel. Open it. Oh, it could just be the USB thing. Sorry, guys. Let me take this and put it in actually the computer instead of a dongle adapter. So I wasn't having problems with this before. I'm doing it right. It is a list, not an integer, though. Let's close this guy. Close it this way. Doo-doo. But essentially, you can make a bunch of these stat on, stat offs for channels. Um, there's an object called sprintf, which allows you to add variables. So I put in chan, and then where the 1 is, I put in a variable called percentage sign I, so like a passive variable for integer. And then I can also put in a variable sign for a string and pass in on and off. So I can use the same sprintf object and send it on off for 2 channels, and you could turn multiple channels on and off at the same time. You can have 3 cents going at the same time, and this is a way of triggering these different toggles. So we'll time to play with this later on when Lindsay gets here, but for right now, we'll go ahead and we already have this copied. I'll put it in Slack for you, so you guys have the code. Cool. That's the scent machine. And then I'll go ahead and stop the recording for the diorama.